All right, big announcement time. Cards on the table. In the next week or so, I am going to be deciding whether or not I am becoming a full-time content creator. So if you are in the position to show me some financial support, like this is the moment. This is decision time for me where I'm going to sit down with my boss and say, this is my situation. This is what's happening. So if you are in the position to support me via Patreon, via YouTube memberships, by doing a donation deck list, or in some other way, like setting me up with a sponsor or something like that, like this is the critical moment, and this is very exciting and also very scary for me. All right, I'm going to be showing this ad all week, and then we'll kind of resume to normal, just do, and then cutting straight to the deck tech. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today I'm going to be putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to be trying a mono black deck without Karn. Billy sent me a deck list and was like, I'm unhappy with Karn, what can we do about this? And the only other restriction was that they didn't want me to put City of Traders in the deck due to budgetary reasons, because paper magic cards can be expensive. So here's kind of the mental problem that I had to solve. Dauthi Voidwalker and Leyline of the Void both combo with Helm of Obedience, and controlling either one of those and then activating a Helm mills out your opponent and gives you a win once your opponent would draw their next card. And that is fantastic, well-established legacy combo. Here's the problem. Karn, while being incredibly slow in the legacy metagame, was a way to run additional copies of Helm of Obedience. What you did was you ran 3 copies of Helm and 4 copies of Karn, the tutor for the final Helm that was in your sideboard, effectively making it so that you had 7 copies of Helm of Obedience, even if they were slow. If we're trying to remain in mono black and we want to play mana efficient cards, it's hard to find something else to go faster than Karn. So there were 2 cards that I came up with. Number 1 is something that some people have already started testing, which is Tainted Pact. Exile the top card of your library. You may put that card into your hand unless it has the same name as another card exiled this way. You repeat this until you either put a card in your hand or you exile 2 cards with the same name. Here's the problem. Swamp. No covered swamp. There's a lot of these in the deck, right? And even if I were to mess with the mana base a little bit and go a little bit deeper into lands like Hive of the Eye Tyrant or something like that, there would still be a good amount of swamps, even if I split them between snow covered and regular. And so I think the fail case for Tainted Pact is relatively high. So I'm going to be trying Profane Tutor, which is essentially a suspend to demonic tutor. And we're going to see how that feels as another way to find Helm of Obedience. Now, there's some potential issues in the deck, and one of them is our good friend Sir Reginald, PhD, Esquire, first of his name, Rotting Reginald. All right, so Rotting Regisaur here is a fantastic card to put in off of Dark Ritual, and people absolutely love just busting face with this card because it just ends games in 3 turns. So if you start off with a Dark Ritual or another disruptive card, and then you lead into Rotting Regisaur, you just end a game. The problem here is that this is something that can come off in your upkeep, and there's also this Rotting Regisaur trigger. So that can potentially be awkward. We'll get around that by stacking it so that we resolve the Rotting Regisaur trigger first, discard a card, and then tutor the appropriate card to our hand. But if we don't have the 4 mana to play the Helm already, stuff gets real weird. See where I'm going? Okay, cool. The primary advantages of playing something like this over the Karn version that's currently running around is that you actually are going to have room for removal spells, and you actually are going to get a sideboard. That's one of the big complaints of playing a Karn Wishboard, is it usually eats 4 to 10 slots in your sideboard, and it means that you don't realistically get to adjust your deck much. Whereas with this version, I can play more discard when I want it. I can play Surgicals to rip cards like Show and Tell out of my opponent's deck. And I can adjust my deck well, including finding a little bit room for some things that might be a little more niche and narrow, like maybe Nemesis Trap for the mono-white initiative matchups. Yeah, so we're gonna see how this plays out. We're gonna see if this feels better or worse than other things that I've been messing around with recently. If you're new here and you like what you see, please consider subscribing. If you're a regular, throw me a like before the video begins. It's the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle! Alright, this is a slightly awkward hand that I think I am going to go ahead and just keep. 4 lands is more lands that I would like to see, and I have 2 of the same sort of portion of the combo, but I think I'm just going to kind of accept this. I'm not sure if I want to pay 3 life for this immediately. Urborg is awkward if I draw Opposition Agent. Oh, understood. No starting black mana. I'm going to be taking the LED here. I think that results in the fastest ways that I do die. Although leaving them with LED when they have the tendrils already in hand is also a thing. Like, they don't have Brainstorm yet to put that back into the deck. We are playing against Ant, which is Ad Nauseam Tendrils. It is a Storm deck. We're going to be very well suited for this matchup in post-sideboard games, and our Leylines and Dauthi Voidwalkers kind of help as well. They're not a true graveyard deck, but there are some things like Cabal Ritual and Past in Flames in here that have ancillary graveyard benefits. Oh, Urborg actually gives them the black mana for the Dark Rituals, so playing this actually does bite me in the butt. Such is life. Let's get a threat down. Yeah, that's actually incredibly awkward here. I've gone on record in other videos talking about how I don't like some of these singleton lands that are seeing play in the mono black deck, but the Urborg making it so that you don't take damage from your Ancient Doom later on definitely does matter. Alright. Got a good idea what's going on there with my opponent's hand. We know what sorts of things they're going to be building towards. I'd like to pressure their life total more aggressively than I am right now, because Ad Nauseam is very much a real card that my opponent could rip at some point. For sure. Alright, just kind of quick thing here. If you kind of notice, none of these cards actually have void counters on them. So don't be thinking about the cool things that we can do with Dauthi Voidwalker. I think we're actually going to be activating a Takenuma for one of the first times on this channel. So we'll go ahead and Chrome Mox, imprint an Agadeem's Awakening. Huzzah. And then we'll activate this at the end of my opponent's turn. We miss some portion of the time, but I would like to find another threat quite desperately. Maybe I'm not supposed to shock because my opponent has the tendrils naturally in hand. Thoughtseize resolves. That was 2 free damage for me. It's a decent opportunity for my opponent to fetch around an opposition agent while they know that I don't have it. Alright. Let's mill 3. Miss. Thank you, Takenuma. As usual, you are a stellar card. Oh! So I'm going to get in here for a lightning bolt worth of damage, and then I'm going to drop Sheoldred, which is going to vastly increase my clock. Opponent goes to 12. And I essentially add 6 more power to the board. That's not literally what it is, but that's effectively what it is. My opponent may need to baby tendrils in order to stay alive. So this fetch puts them to 11, which is very specifically an interesting number. Because, Sheoldred over 2 turns here is 8 plus 3, 11. Alright, so my opponent's just going to go ahead and draw a card while they can. If they have something like a Brainstorm, they will potentially fire it off here as well. Alright, so there's my opponent going to 9. And we'll see if they've got it. They've got 6 cards in hand. They can't do cool Infernal Tutor chain things with that tendril stuck in their hand. Oh no. Alright, my opponent took a long time resolving that Brainstorm, so we'll see if they're able to win. They're at 3 when the stack clears. They're very much deterministically dead on my turn. They don't really have the removal to take these creatures out of play. They have to deal 15 damage. They've got at least 2 Dark Rituals in terms of mana to start things off here. So, it very much can happen. Okay, there is a Wishclaw Talisman. An LED. This should kill me, right? 3, 6, 7 total mana, down to 6 for Wishclaw Talisman activation. Ooh, does opponent need 1 more spell? They You need one more spell from hand? Alright, there's the activation. No cracking LED in response. Infernal Tutor crack LED tendrils is one short. Okay, Ponder puts them to 2 life. And now they're 1 mana short of an LED Infernal Tutor line. They can't fetch to get an extra mana. Lotus Petal does it. Yeah, Infernal Tutor Tendrils gets me. Damn. Alright, that'll do it. Got a -1 here. I guess reflecting back on the game, I don't know their exact deck list, but it's possible I just win the game by taking their Tendrils on turn 1 with Thoughtseize, right? With Leyline in play. Alright, we have a giant pile of things that I can bring in here. Opposition Agent, Inquisition, and Hymn to Turok are all slam dunks. Plague Engineer and Surgical Extraction potentially being playable. I do not want Sudden Edict. I probably do not need Helm of Obedience. I can just kill my opponent with, you know, a ham sandwich if I have the time to, like, disrupt them. It doesn't matter how I kill them. And that would be a clean in-out. Surgical Extraction is not crazy, but probably is not necessary with, like, both Leyline and Dauthi Voidwalker still in the deck. I could play, like, Surgical over Leyline if I'm going to board out Helm. Reasonable. Could also cut a land here. Like, the front side of this is not at all appealing, and ETB tapped land in this matchup. Something that I don't want given the other things that I want to do here. After eliminating 4/4 drops from the deck, I think I will play one of these things. This just helps hedge against empty. I don't think I'm happy with this hand. Like, I have absolutely fantastic disruption, but I don't get to deploy more than 1 card a turn, and I don't get to easily put a threat into play. Turn 1 on the play, Opposition Agent is pretty appealing. I will go ahead and keep this, even though it doesn't have more gas beyond this. Imprint the Voidwalker, play Ancient Tomb, and I'm 100% just sorcery speeding this. I do not want my opponent to just, like, play a fetch land pass, and then, like, I don't get to use my mana. Alright, there's a Swamp for my opponent, and a Thoughtseize, which is going to miss. That was just a free shock for our opponent here. I'll start taking Lightning Bolt-sized chunks out of them. Opposition Agent is incredibly powerful in this matchup as it shuts off Infernal Tutor and fetch lands, as well as Wishclaw Talisman. Okay, seems like our opponent doesn't have anything here. So we'll just continue to punch. And post-combat, we'll fire off a discard spell. My opponent doesn't have Veil of Summer up currently, so we can just go ahead and punch a hole. Okay, so my opponent was not Stone Cold Dead if I took Tendrils. That's good to know. We will be taking that Burning Wish here. Alright, fantastic. Yeah, and this is why I was willing to keep this hand. Like, this shuts off so much. I believe my opponent is supposed to make the land drop, though. Like, it gets a card out of hand for Infernal Tutor purposes later, and sets them up better for if they end up, like, Abrupt Decaying this or whatever their removal of choice is. There's a discard? Yeah, again, this could just be in play rather than being in discard, unless they specifically are trying to discard to move towards Cabal Ritual. It seems unlikely that that's relevant. Yeah, Thoughtseize is fine. Like, neither one of these cards has any text right now. When it goes to 4, that makes Misty no longer a live card in a different way. Drop my opponent to 1. Go ahead and Inquisition, see if we see anything cool over there. There is a Cabal Ritual. I don't think any of this super matters. It's either Brainstorm or Infernal Tutor. I could just take the Surgical so they can't Surgical me and see what my deck is before dying. But I don't care if they know what my deck is. Like, pretty obvious the sort of stuff that I'm playing. Go ahead and just take the Infernal Tutor. And I don't think it really matters. Alright, good stuff. I'm on the draw. I might want the extra Plague Engineer as added insurance versus my opponent just making goblins off a Burning Wish. I already cut my Hagra Mauling, right? Yeah, I did. I don't know though, I don't really want to cut any of my other cards. Actually, Profane Tutor is really slow here. Like, I just don't have that time. Maybe that becomes one Surgical. It'll become one Helm. Just like not black for imprinting purposes. I'm going to kill my opponent with damage before I'm going to kill them with Helm in most cases. I'll just go ahead and do this. This is a reasonable opening hand that can turn one opposition agent if my opponent does not take it with discard. If they do take it with discard, I Inquisition them and play a turn 2 Sheoldred. This is fine. Alright, C. Are we seeing Thoughtseize? We're seeing Thoughtseize, so I will lose opposition agent here. Yep. Yeah, Petal's fine. Opponent's going to play out their artifact mana so that I can't take it with Inquisition. It's a little awkward if this is a Veil of Summer, but like I'm just going to fire it off into it. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I don't think I want to Chrome Mox a Sheoldred here. I'll just pass. This is a very good start for my opponent. They haven't like cantrip to set up or anything yet, so like I'm not worried about dying or anything right now. It can happen, but the hope is that this can start clocking my opponent and giving me the life that I need to get out of like Baby Tendrils range. That is a choice. My opponent did not brainstorm, wait for fetch land, fetch, clear the bad cards. They played this intentionally. If my opponent is a good player, that means that they are close to going off or they are looking for a discard spell. They are a bad player. It's just a sequencing error. Okay, sure. All right, and that is a shuffle here. Plague Engineer is cool. We'll go ahead and Chrome Mox. I will imprint a Sheoldred. I will cast a Sheoldred. So this is a pretty fast clock. Not my ideal hate card here. I'd like to draw a Hymn or something else that attacks my opponent's hand or otherwise disrupts them. Alright, another cantrip. Will cost 2 life. Alright, there's the Sheoldred trigger. Another land drop. Alright, yeah, Hymn is great. So we'll go ahead, go to Punchies. Hit my opponent for 4. Drops them to 10. I am going to play both my cards this turn. Again, a Veil of Summer can be annoying, but just going to eat it. Like, it costs my opponent 2 life if they do have Veil of Summer. And if they don't, this is backbreaking. Yeah, LED and Cabal Ritual. That's a big deal. And now we'll shut off the backdoor Goblin kill here. Okay. I imagine at this point it would be incredibly difficult for my opponent to win. So they go to 8 from this, there's 6 more from my attack, 2 more from their next draw step, so they have to win this turn on 3 cards from 8 life through Sheoldred. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and be at 20. I'll attack in with both of these. Okay, Abrupt Decay is acceptable. My opponent still gets hit for 4. I believe... Is this worth my 2 life? My opponent already has Threshold. No tutor in there. Yeah, this is worth my 2 life. But barely. That puts my opponent to 2. Okay, and we win the match there. GG's. Okay, this opening hand is not really capable. It doesn't really do anything as it stands now. This is unimpressive, but I will keep this rather than going to 5. Okay. Got swamps. We certainly have swamps. They're all technically bayous right now, I suppose. Getting a response, probably a crop rotation. Yep. Probably a green Cloud Post deck. Could be a lands deck. Rise in Thoughtseizes. Fucking rough, folks. Alright. So there's one unknown card here right now. Given that I don't have a play for next turn anyway, I'm going to hold this Thoughtseize for one more turn. Got a couple Sudden Edicts that I can draw, which would be hot. So, want to play the land, makes this. Sheoldred doesn't save me. So 2 extra life here. Doesn't matter. I basically need to draw the Edict. That just is what it is. Let's cast this. It's probably not hitting anything, but let's cast it. Yeah. Ugh. Alright. Alright. Edict, baby. There's no justice in this world. I have to pass the turn with mana available. I can't play out a card here. Unsurprisingly, my opponent has opted to go for it. The Thespian Stage copies Dark Depths, the remaining one has 0 counters, meaning they make a 20/20 monster, and I don't have the out. GG. It was super unfortunate that we kept the double Thoughtseize hand, and it was just totally blank here. I'd like the extra opposition agents. I don't think I'm interested in a 6-mana Nemesis trap to exile them. I'm interested in these extra 2 edicts, and then, like, some of this stuff over here is playable. I have 4 cards I absolutely want to bring in. Like, on the play, the Thoughtseizes should be able to hit, like, very relevant cards. But they might just be my cut anyway, because I don't take Thoughtseize as the game goes long. It can be nice to punch a hole early, but my plan is kind of prepare to answer a Merit Lodge and or just combo my opponent. Regisaur? Regisaur. 3 turns, let's go. Backed by a couple copies of Edict. I'm going to discard some number of those cards here, though. Like, you don't get a 7-power attacker on turn 1 with no downside, right? You have to wait until turn 2 for Murktide Regent. Alright. We're chilling. I think I'm going to get rid of Ancient Tomb here and play this as a tapped black source. I don't know. I lose out on playing Future Rotting Regisaur and Opposition Agents if I do that. Okay, I've changed my mind. Goodbye. This one. This bluffs Opposition Agent. Is kind of a huge deal. Alright, opponent's at 13. 2 more hits kills them. Again, I've got Edicts. But I will ultimately just lose those cards to Rotting Regisaur discard. I think I just keep both the Edicts and junk the extra land drop here. Okay, this is fine. Am I eating a swords here? A crop rotation. Sure. Grabbing Plateau. And Thespian Stage, sure. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Urborg here. Swords of Plowshares as last card? No. Leyline of the Void will be my next discard, and then I'm hoping my opponent is dead. Yeah, I have this covered. I'll discard Leyline. And my opponent presumably makes it right here. Yes, this is fine. Yep. Sudden Edict. Target you. I don't want to show them the Sheoldred's Edict. Yeah, and this is the sort of reason why I really wanted to have Edicts that I very much missed when I was playing the build from last week. Alright, on the draw, do I want some Inquisitions or Thoughtseizes to poke some initial holes? Some of that might be better than some top end like Sheoldred. Sheoldred can put me to 22 sometimes, but Sheoldred's often getting powered out by Ancient Doom. I think I'm just going to call this good. I could, like, very much see justifying Thoughtseize, though. So this hand has an Edict, but then not really a lot else going for it. I think I'm just going to go ahead and fish for something slightly better here. I would say this qualifies. I think I'm going to get rid of my 5th mana here. I will draw something by the time that I need that. The opposition agent may be too slow here. Okay. Junking and Arbor. This would be a hand that I would have loved on the play, where I just get turn 2 opposition agent before a lot of the scariest stuff can happen. But my opponent has a very good window to do scary things this turn. Yeah, that's fine. I think I'm in the situation again where I just sorcery speed opposition agent. I think I just play it safe rather than try to get my opponent. Otherwise, they can just, like, play the game conservatively in a way that, like, I never get to use my mana again. Now, I can just still lose to Bag of the Reliquary getting bigger. I can just lose my opponent having Dark Depths in hand naturally. Okay, yeah, so we're going to be trading damage here, but I'm the one with the Ancient Tomb, and my opponent also has the first attack here, so, like, this damage race very much does favor them. I'll be doing this tapped this turn, I think. My opponent doesn't have endurance mana up, so this attack should be plenty safe. Alright, fantastic. Play that tapped past the turn with the intention of flashing in another opposition agent. I might end up doing some mid-combat blocks. It's just like awkward because a crop rotation, for example, does some weird things. Sure. My gut is telling me to make this play. Just like be significantly safer versus Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, anyway, a crop rotation, even if my opponent doesn't get to search out a land, can still just turn this into a larger creature. This is not the best for me. Alright. Lands are not what I'm looking for. This is worth the life to me here. And we're just going to chill. And I will have 8 top decks that just get me an instant win from here. Yep, this is fine. And also not unexpected. Like, I actively played around that. Edicts are good for me. Sheoldred's good for me. Discard's unexciting, but acceptable. Reggie? Reggie probably qualifies as good. Yeah, I'll go ahead and play a Reggie. That's a much more real clock here. It's a 2-turn clock if I draw an Edict. Not interested in naturally helming my opponent while they still control a knight that can just get bigger. Alright, Mox Diamond is probably indicative of something. Well, okay, that's another thing it can just be indicative of. But I could have to deal with something like a Minsk and Boo here. That otherwise would have been stuck in my opponent's hand. Like, they've had enough mana for a while, but maybe not the appropriate colors. Okay, I'm correct about the Minsk and Boo. Yep. This is annoying. I wonder if... Rotting Regisaur is super awkward here. I wonder if I'm supposed to helm my opponent now for X's 3 because of how good it is for me to hit another creature here. It's awkward. I think given that I just have another helm, I go ahead and do this. Alright, I made the knight bigger, which is unfortunate. Start a swamp. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I can go ahead and play Agadeem's Awakening for X's 3, returning both of these creatures. Will my opponent be able to read Agadeem's Awakening? Like, if I attack both of these at Minsk and Boo, will my opponent block? Or will they be smarter than that? I guess this is a let's find out situation. Oh, right. If they can still just activate Knight. Get a 7. I'm losing to this Minsk and Boo as of right now. I think I'm going to swing for the fences here. Alright, opponent didn't fall for the obvious trap. That's unfortunate. I get to take out the Minsk and Boo. And there's this window where Knight of the Reliquary is active. Costs me 2 life. I'll return this. But now my opponent gets to search up a Dark Depths. Or honestly, they could pick up a fetch land. Alright, there is the sacrifice. A Bojuka Bog. Yeah, that works too. That is just 11 damage after I took 2 from Ancient Tomb. Yeah, that is deterministically dead for me. I will concede there. Alright, GG's. Oh, we were not winning this one. We had to go real deep. I needed 1, 2, 3, 4. I needed 5 more turns before I got to Leyline. Was not happening. Alright, we have gotten paired against a Yorion deck. Knowing this player, it's almost 100% to be Death and Taxes. My hand has a decent amount of mana. Early Opposition Agent is okay. Early Thoughtseize is okay. I'll keep the hand. I'm not in love with it. It's fine. Generally speaking, I think Death and Taxes destroys these mono black decks. That has just kind of been my experience. Yes, this is fine. And then I'll have to decide whether or not I want an Opposition Agent or Thoughtseize. Okay, I don't have to decide. From Mox, imprint this, Thoughtseize, Dark Ritual, Opposition Agent afterwards. Seems good. Imprint and Thoughtseize. Ooh, so that's the nonsense that we're doing here, huh? Cathalia is not annoying right now. I guess I'm going to take this Solitude. Solitude Ephemerate is kind of a pain in the butt. I'll go ahead and pass the turn here, and then I'll Opposition Agent in response to my opponent casting Thalia on their turn. Alright, there's our beloved lady. There's Opposition Agent. And this is going to put me further away from some things like Helm. And our attacks aren't safe because first strike is very much a thing. Like, the problem here is that, like, my opponent is going to have time to draw into their Skyclaves and such, their Flickerists, their Recruiters that they can just ephemerate, or otherwise blink with Yorion. D&D just has such a huge leg up over these sorts of decks in the endgame. Alright, that's just straight up the Yorion to hand. We'll see whether or not they want to attack. Alright, they will attack. That's fine. That means that I can probably safely attack back. Like, this can be another Thalia, but I'm just going to attempt to trade damage here. Alright, opponent takes that. I don't want to use this Dark Ritual to put a Leyline into play. Yes, nor can I. Oh, yeah, but, like, my opponent is in no danger of dying. This can tick fully up to 5 to cast this Yorion. Or put it into play, rather. Or they can just hit their line drops. Opposition agent is not denying mana from fetch lands here. Alright, so now my opponent's going to pump the brakes on the attacks. I don't play this out. I just hold that. I don't want to get this wastelanded because this allows me to play a Helm and activate it in the same turn. Alright. Are we Yorioning? Alright. We're going to pivot back to attacking again. Not great for me. There is the Yorion, which blinks the Thalia. And that ends up untapped. I'm dead in 2 to 3 attack steps from my opponent here. Looking to draw a Helm for a win. A Profane Tutor will be too slow at this point. Okay, Karakas Yorion is rough. Go ahead and take this hit. I'm at 8. I'm not technically taking lethal damage next turn. Now that I have 2 of these, I can play one of these out. I'm not attacking. There's no way I'm winning with combat damage versus this onboard stuff. And I'm on 4 outs. That puts me to 2. Yeah. We flooded out real bad. GG. That was unfortunate. That was what it was. Alright, I want opposition agents and plague engineers. Nemesis Trap is, I suppose, playable. Just generally speaking, not excited about playing this matchup. I just don't think the tools are here for this deck. I think I need to get rid of Rotting Regisaur. I think my opponent just has too much white exile removal for the discard here to be a reasonable thing for me to be doing. I can board in some more removal if there's anything I would like to board out. Sheoldred's not great versus the Karakas deck. That probably gets me a few more removal cards of some kind. Again, though, I just don't like this matchup. This is a fine controlling hand, but as we saw last game, trying to be controlling isn't going to work against this deck as these games go long. I'm going to mulligan and look for something that has a combo piece or 2 in it. It has both my combo pieces, technically. This is like Chrome Mox, Imprint, a Profane Tutor, Shock, Dauthi Voidwalker, hope to draw lands to continue doing stuff. This is uninspired and probably just eats it to a Wastelander, Rishadenport, or Thalia, but is significantly better than the first hand, I think. This one has an actual plan to win, and the previous one did not have that. Oh fuck, is this actually a... No, this is a black card for the purposes of Chrome Mox. It's the little black circle, which is a color identity circle. If I'm wrong, I lose the game instantly. But I'm not wrong. Pay the life. Dauthi Voidwalker. Pass. I really need my top card to be a land. 3 swords in. We're Violin. Hey, top card was a land. Dash in for my 3 damage. Pass the turn. If beggars can be choosers, top card being Ancient Tomb would be pretty hot. A Field of Ruin. So we'll do the end of turn creature dance. And we're just trying to clock my opponent. Helm of Obedience, very much not what I'm looking for here. My opponent took the full 6 damage. That's not bad for me. Yuck. Significantly slows down my aggression. See how bad this is. Very bad. Alright, I'm losing the Dauthi Voidwalker, which is a combo piece here. That makes sense. this is going to be easily checked by my opponent's creatures at this point. We're going to start reaching that point of the game where my opponent becomes more and more favored. I'm not going to attack 2 Vial on 2 plus Mom. I just don't think that ends well for me most of the time. Alright, Vial ticks up. Alright, I lose a Helm. Honestly, could be worse. This is the sort of stuff that I'm talking about. Like, they have such good ways of interacting against my permanent-based combos. We're just throwing this out there again. Again, I don't think the opposition agent attacks make a ton of sense. If my opponent can just block protect anyway, and I potentially lose the creature to a flashed-in creature. And every turn that we sit here is just a turn closer to my opponent having Dorian. Okay, so they can flicker out opposition agent and then recruiter of the guard. Yep. They've got options, but something like a Skyclave or a Lauren is probably what I'm looking at. Yep. Lauren with Caracas in play is pretty good. Thank you, deck. Very cool. Now my opponent has like Lauren, Vial, Caracas. I don't think I'm beating that. Oh, I should probably zoom in on this one. This is a newer card still. Start getting beaten to death by Flicker Wisp here. Bear to the Labyrinth is just more pressure. Presumably going to force me to activate my Helm. It is. Don't like. Skyclave Apparition is not going to do anything because my opponent has Mother Runes. At least not on the creatures. So I guess I'm taking out the Vial. But yeah, like as you can see, the tides of this battle have just fully turned. And if my opponent has no other plays, they can just like bounce Lauren, start going after my Chrome Mox. I'm just eating a good amount of damage every turn. Alright, they're not willing to just bounce at end step to guarantee that they can cast it. It is a Vigilance creature at the end of the day. My opponent probably crashes in for 6 to 8 damage here, depending on how exactly they value this card and what they intend on doing with it. Like, I can give away value to save a little bit of life. I think I will do that. Yeah. A new spirit is not great for me. My opponent just has so much more power, so many more bodies. Cool deck. I'm gonna go ahead and pack it in there. At this point, I'm losing fairly, and I don't have either one of my combo pieces. Like, nope, absolutely not.
Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you are, and you're in the position to financially support me, please consider doing a donation deck list or doing something that pledges some money my way every month, be that a Patreon subscription or a YouTube membership. If you support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member, you do gain access to my Discord, which is a pretty chill place. Alright, plug over. Let's get back to the content.
Alright, for round 4, I've kept a slightly below average speed opening hand. I have two parts of, like, I have both parts of my combo here naturally, and the mana to get to it. I don't love that my first land can be wastelanded, but, like, if I trade for a wasteland on turn 1, I do just have 3 more. Please don't just turn 1 me before I get to Dauthi Voidwalker. Fuck. I lose Dauthi Voidwalker here, and now I have no place for a couple of turns, which means I'm almost certainly dead. Losses to Black-Red Reanimator while playing 8 main deck Graveyard Hate. Feels fucking bad. Oh, they've taken the Sheoldred. Oh, does that just mean they just get to Entomb now? I'm gonna Entomb in response to this and then just leave this in my graveyard for them to eat later. Yep. Frustrating. Oh, Daze? Okay, it's Daze instead, sure. That's fine. Like, I always have to jam there. It is just 100% obligatory. So we are playing against Blue-Black Reanimator rather than Black-Red, which is good for us. It means they're going to have show and tell in post-sideboard games. Alright, yeah, they're going to reanimate my Sheoldred. That is going to be a very good clock here. Now, the thing is that I can just play out a Helm of Obedience and try to get their Atraxa. And that would be really fucking cool, as the kids say. Yeah, but, like, we get to see Sheoldred be in a fucking house here. Opposition Agent is sweet. But given the amount of pressure that I'm under, I just have to jam here. And if my opponent dazes, I just play another one next turn. It's a Force of Will. That sucks. Pitching a second Atraxa. Yeah, Atraxa pitching to Grizzlebrand is so good. Alright, sure. You doing Strix? Oh, Anime dead, sure. Reef takes my other Helm, and then I imagine I'm probably dead. Now, this is frustrating, because, like, we should win this game 1 the vast majority of the time. But I didn't. And this is just lethal as of right now. This is too slow here. A Karn also would have been too slow. I can flash an opposition agent, block this, get another turn, but I don't have a winning line from there. I'm going to go ahead and just concede. I can Nemesis Trap and Atraxa, but I think the plan is not that narrow. I think I'm going to board in a pile of cards that hit really hard. I'm going to keep the Helm stuff. I probably board out my Rotting Regisaur since they're such a good reanimation target for my opponent. Probably board out Profane Tutor for being slow. At this point, let's sort this by mana value. Maybe I... Oh, I missed a Regisaur. That helps. Maybe I don't want this many of these. They're uncounterable for the purposes of days, but I am not necessarily in love with drawing those, especially in multiples. I go down one him here. I have to keep a certain threat density, so I don't think I can shave all my Sheoldreds. This is fine. It's tough to know which of these that I should do. I think I want to go to my opponent's upkeep and flash in opposition agent. Play Dauthi Voidwalker on turn 2. So let's Dark Ritual and play the opposition agent. I want to do it on their turn because of like potential Force of Negation. Like, I don't think they're going to be playing that, but it's just better for me. Thoughtseize is good. Very awkward for me if they have a reanimate for Sheoldred immediately. And now we're running into the opposition agent Urborg problem again. Kill my opponent for 3. 15. I guess hope to draw another land before I play this Sheoldred. Yep, Brainstorm's fine. A very aggressive Brainstorm. Alright. Thoughtseize resolves. I'll lose access to sudden. Well, really depends on what my opponent has here. They might just need to take my clock. Unfortunate they had double Underground Sea that is not affected by opposition agent. Yeah, I lost access to my creature. Sorry, my creature removal. Chrome Mox is about the worst draw in the deck there. Fashion for 10. This will be dazable. I am just going to be jamming here, though. Like, I am scared enough that I just need to do that. Raxa pitching to Force of Will once again. That is now a mana source because of this non-bow. And would you look at that? Urborg loses me a game. Yep. Go. Yeah, so when I talk about basic lands being good, this is the sort of reason why. Yeah, so I'm gonna get attacked for 9, and then I'm basically dead. I'm going to not play Thoughtseize as to preserve my life total here. Yeah, so that would have been 2 different mana sources that I would have denied if this was a swamp, which is brutal. All right, I don't believe I'm on any outs any longer. I will concede. GG. Oh no, we've gotten paired against another Yorion deck. Hopefully it's not Death and Taxes. I'm going to be keeping this hand. I think I just go Swamp Pass and don't immediately opposition agent in an attempt to get a blue opponent. But it's like very awkward if they just go Fetch Land Pass, which is maybe a reason to just do it in their upkeep. Damn it. Can't win this matchup. I want to use Dark Ritual on opposition agent. Yeah. Dark Ritual ends up getting taxed a lot later on. And if I can get the opposition agent removed now with a Source of Plowshares or a Solitude or whatever, then Dauthi Voidwalker becomes safer later. Alright, I've drawn more mana. But folks, this matchup is brutal. I think this is the first time that I've like drawn a profane tutor in a situation where I could reasonably suspend it. I'm probably going for Leyline of the Void. Ah, that's brutal, given both of these are non-basics. Hey, a basic. I'm crashing in for damage. Might be eating a Cathar... Nope, not eating a Cathar Commando. Land Pass. Solitude. Are you ephemerating over there? Regain my life. We're touching the Spirit Realm. So it seems like my opponent did that poorly, right? Because this comes back at the beginning of the next end step. So my opponent could have done that in my second main phase and gotten an attack in for 3. Picked Elemental. Normally means they're gonna like cast a Flicker Wisp. Okay, that's fine. We're not planning on... Oh, Jete is weird. Alright, get your Solitude back. Now I get 2 Profane Tutor. Cast it, and we're going for Leyline Helm here. We'll play this. Pay the life. Cast a Leyline. Next turn, we probably just play out a Helm and pass, assuming that my opponent wastelands me. My opponent got Jete, which is super mana intensive and not hasty. They could just have Cauldron in hand already. Nope. Okay, this is fine. Oh, my opponent just lost the game. For not wastelanding me. Alright, there's Helm. Go ahead and pass the turn. So while they have all their white mana tapped here, well, I guess I can see what this is first. Right, it is Jite. While all their white mana is tapped and they can't mess with me, I will go ahead and mill them out. And they're making a rookie mistake here. They're letting me see their entire deck rather than just conceding in response. Yeah, so rather than just conceding, they showed me their entire deck. Let's see if there's anything of note here. Not really. 2 touch the Spirit Realm is about the only thing of substance. So sideboarding will be roughly the same as last time around. I think I decided I did not want Rotting Regisaur. I think I decided I did not want Sheoldred. Super Threat Light, which I'm not the biggest fan of. That gives me these. I do these for earlier on and then a Nemesis Trap. Guess it's not crazy to IOK. Just slow them down and try to force through my combo the first time. Nemesis Trap is just like, okay, that's really there for initiative. Where exiling an attacking initiative creature and also taking the initiative myself matters so much. Also wouldn't be crazy to play like one him or something. The issue with like any discard spells though is that my opponent just has like Yori and chilling there that gets them out of most of the early stuff that I do. Inquisition missing Solitude is kind of a big deal. I'm gonna play 1 Nemesis Trap. Okay, this is a hand that has a reasonable fair game versus Death and Taxes. I'm not excited about playing a... Don't have to be excited. Don't have to be excited at all. Well, that was a bit of an anticlimactic end to the video, but let's take another look at the deck list here to kind of cap things off. Overall thoughts on the deck list. I didn't miss Karn. I specifically wanted to top deck Helm of Obedience at a decent number of points throughout the league, but I did not want to top deck a Karn, which costs me another turn cycle. In theory, Profane Tutor or maybe something else like this that we are talking about at the beginning of the video is a reasonable way to try to dig towards the Helm. Honestly, though, it may be that when you're playing more threats like the Rotting Regisaurs and the Sheoldreds, it may just be that like this is supposed to be a sideboard package that is brought in to free up 8 more main deck slots, and you're supposed to play like some hymns and opposition agents or something like that in the main deck. Like the Leylines are super good versus Reanimators, super good versus Blue-Red Delver, and then, you know, they're just kind of half of a combo piece in a lot of other matchups. They can still be imprinted to Chrome Mox when they're bad. I don't think this was a bad deck list, despite the fact that like this video as a whole did not go particularly well. Um, but I think playing mono black right now is a little bit of an uphill battle. I'm just like not super happy with any of the builds and how they're situated in the current metagame, because I feel like to be competitive, you have to really gear versus Blue Red Delver and Initiative specifically, and then you end up super like unprepared to fight the random decks that you're gonna face in Legacy. So, like, this is a deck that like I love, but I'm not feeling like it's the most competitive thing in the world right now. Like, I think it's a fine tier 2 or so deck list, but I'm ultimately not happy with this build. And like maybe part of that is like this needed a couple of City of Traders to round out the mana and make it so you more consistently get to Rotting Regisaur on turn 2 or Sheoldred on turn 2 or 3 or like Helm activate. But I felt like this one wasn't quite there. And like some of the little things like Urborg shutting off opposition agent came up. Ake Numa got activated but didn't actually return anything. So like some of the utility lands that you're playing in mono black have relatively large downsides of one or another. So this is the deck that I'll always be circling back to, but maybe I'll shelf this for a week or two and see if anything changes that makes me kind of more excited to play this again. I will say Sheoldred's Edict was a cool pickup. Like, I don't think we cast this league, but I was bringing it in a lot, and I really do like having access to it in addition to Sudden Edict. Like, this is the sort of thing that a Knight of the Reliquary isn't going to stop me from answering a Merit Lodge, and that was very relevant. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. It helps out a lot. If you have any thoughts about the deck building, especially the whole Karn situation, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to read them. I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!